Greetings, dear friends, and welcome once more to this channel. This is 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐩𝐸 from Evolution Company. In this tutorial, we are going to be solving 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐸 2022, and we are going to be working on the case study part, section A, part 2. Before we get started, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. We are going to move straight to section A of the case study paper, and we will be working with the part 2 question, which is on procedural programming, in other words structured programming. We are going to start by reading the question, which says that a class of n students take an annual examination in m subjects. Two of such subjects are coefficient 4 subjects and the rest are coefficient 2. Mathematics and English are the two coefficient 4 subjects and they are compulsory. Each student must offer between 4 and 10 subjects. Write a C program that permits the user to 1. Enter the number of subjects written, marks on 20, and the coefficient of each of the subjects written. 2. The program will print out the total marks of the student, his average, and his remarks. And we are given a set of remarks. In order to demonstrate or solve this problem, we are going to be using Visual Studio Code as our editor or IDE. I am actually on Visual Studio Code, so I'm going to just move on by creating a file, a C file, which I will be using for my code. I will proceed with the basic structure of a C program, which is this is the basic structure of a C program. Let's move back to the question. It says that the class has n students taking an annual examination in m subjects. Two of the subjects are coefficient 4 and the rest are coefficient 2 subjects. And the coefficient 4 subjects are compulsory. And we have to note here that the question equally says that each student must offer between 4 and 10 subjects. It means that a student cannot take lesser than 4 subjects and he or she cannot take more than 10 subjects. And we are asking the first part that we should write a C program that permits the user to enter the number of subjects written, marks on 20, and the coefficient of each of the subject written. So based on question 1, I can see that I will need 3 variables. I will need a variable for the number of subjects, a variable for the marks, and another one for the coefficient. So I move to Visual Studio Code. So I will start by declaring those variables. Obviously, I know that the coefficient would be of type integer. It's between 2 and 4, and both of them are integer values. I'm going to declare another variable m for the number of subjects. And I will declare another variable of type double called m for the marks. We have declared our 3 variables which are needed to answer question 1. So I'm going to start by using a printf to prompt the user to enter the number of subjects. And then a scanf to read user input. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, remember that we have the number of subjects and the user will need to allocate marks and coefficient for those number of subjects. So to do that, I'm going to use a for loop. I will declare another variable I, which I will initialize to 0, and I will be strictly less than the number of subjects. And I increment I each time. So in the for loop, I'm going to form the user using a printf to enter the subject max on 20. And I will use a scanf. So with that, remember that I declare the max variable to be of type double. So I'm going to use LF here. I'll use another printf from the user to enter the subject coefficient. And a scanf. So with that, with this, we are done with question 1. Our program can permit the user to enter the number of subjects, enter the subject max, as well as the subject coefficient. So we are done with part 1 of the question. Part 2 says that the program will print out the total marks of the student, his average, and his remarks. And we are given a set of remarks. So let's move to answer part 2. Looking at question 2, we can see that we will need to declare two other variables, which are the variable that will store the total marks and the variable that will store the average. So I'm going to do that. So the total marks here, I will declare a variable to be called total, and I will assign it 0.0, and another variable average, which will be initialized to 0.00. Okay, when we have done that, the next thing you need to know, which is a domain knowledge obviously, is that here we are calculating the weighted total and the weighted average. So to calculate the weighted total, it will be equal to the total, which will be assigned the initial total plus the max times the coefficient. So this is the weighted total, and obviously the weighted average will be assigned the total divided by the sum of coefficient, which we have not yet declared. Before we proceed, let's move back to our slide. So here you can see the formula to calculate the average, that's the basic average, and the formula to calculate the weighted average. So with the Basic average, the average is simply the sum of the set value divided by the number of values. All of us, I guess, all of us, we know that. Whereas for the weighted average, we have the sum of the weighted, we have the sum of the weight of the values times the data values divided by the sum of the weight of the values, which is actually what we are applying in our code. So back here, you will realize that we will need to declare another variable, which will be called sum of coefficient. Sum of coefficient, which I will initialize it to 0. So with that, that portion of the code is okay. So now I will use another printf, print. Remember that we are using a for loop here because we have a range of subjects that the user will need to enter the marks and the coefficient. So for us to permit the user to do that, we have to use a for loop. At this point in time, this program can calculate and print the student total marks as well as the student average. Just for a check, I'm going to add another printf. And here I'm going to add sum of coefficient equals to the initial sum plus the coefficient. Remember that I'm just doing that for a check if actually sum of coefficient here is the sum of the weight or the sum of the coefficient as I'm calling. I'm going to compile the program. Let's check this program. Let's start by compiling it. Okay, so you can see that our program is working as expected. So the last thing to do is to work on the remarks. For the remarks, I'm going to use an if, as if construct to do that. So I'm going to start with if average is greater than or equal to 0 and an logic and average. is less than or equal to 6. Print very poor. As if average is strictly greater than 6 and average is less than or equal to 9. Print poor. As if again average is strictly greater than 9 and average is strictly less than 10. Print below average. As if average is equal to 10. Print average. Else print good. With this logic, our program is complete. So we are going to save this and check. And you can see that the remark has been added. So our program is working as expected. The last thing I'm going to show you is that instead of having these two printf here, that is printf, enter the subject marks, and then enter the subject coefficient, we can use a single printf at this stage to do that. So let me show you that. So here I'm going to say enter the subject marks and coefficient and coefficient and coefficients. So here I'm going to add percentage d coefficient. So with that, I can remove this. So we have printf, enter the subject's marks from 20 and coefficients. Let me save this, Control S. Get back here, let me compile that. So you see that C gives the same output. So this is the complete program. Thank you once more for watching this video, and remember